Hey guys, so what we're going to do is we're going to start our lesson on adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. I know that some of you in the past really just hate fractions because you had such a hard time doing them when you were younger. It's like post-traumatic stress. But I need to tell you that as soon as you go through this lesson with me, you're going to feel 1,000 times better about things because your brain has more connections now than it did when you were younger trying to learn how to do them. So the first example that I want to try with you is a basic one, and I'm going to give you our first strategy. We're going to do 1/3 plus 1/2. 1/3 plus 1/2. And what I'd like you to do is write this down so that you can follow along with me. Now, one trick of the trade is to make sure you write your fractions top to bottom and not side to side. Sometimes when we type them, we have to type them side to side because of font issues and computer issues. But online paper, you should do them top to bottom. That way it's easier to do the process. The first strategy to getting a common denominator, because in order to add or subtract, you need a common denominator, is to swap the denominators. So these numbers are pretty small. And so what I'm going to do is the 2 is going to go over on this side, and the 3 is going to come over here. Because 2 times 3 is 6, and each one of these will have it, that will give us our common denominator. But whatever we do to the bottom, we got to do the top. So you can't forget to write this step. This is where a lot of people go wrong. Okay? Now, our second step, after we swap them, is we're going to rewrite the fraction after we multiply. So 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 times 3 is 6. So it's going to be 2 6, plus sign. 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 times 3 is 6. And our very last step is to keep the common denominator. So that's going to stay 6. And you only add the numerators. You only add the tops. So this would be 2 plus 3, which is 5. And there's your answer. Easy peasy. The second type of problem that I wanted to look at with you as far as common denominators go, where it might be easier to do a different method, would be like example number 2. For example number 2, I have 3 halves plus 11 sixths. Now, I know these are improper, meaning the top is bigger than the bottom, but that doesn't matter at all. When we're combining fractions or adding fractions, the one thing that you need to have is a common denominator. It doesn't matter what the numerators are. So in this case, you can swap the numbers if you want, but you're going to have an extra step at the end. For this case, do you notice that 2 actually goes into 6? So if I know that 2 is a factor of 6, meaning that I can multiply something by 2 to get 6, then that's what I'm going to do. So in order for my 2 to become a 6, I'm going to multiply by 3. And whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top. Now, do I need to do anything to this 6? No, because 6 is my guy. So I can leave this one alone. I don't have to make a common denominator with him because that is the denominator that I'm looking for. On to step 2, and that is to multiply and make a new fraction. 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 2 is 6. And we're just going to carry over the plus sign and the 11 sixths. Lastly, we're going to keep our common denominator, and we're going to add the numerators up. And 11 plus 9, or 9 plus 11, is 20. Now, the last thing that we need to make sure of in our fractions is that they're in lowest terms, in simplest form. This one has a common factor in it, meaning that I can divide the top and the bottom by the same number to reduce it. What number goes into 20 and also into 6? If you were thinking 2, you were correct. So we're going to divide the top by 2 and divide the bottom by 2 to simplify our fraction. So 20 divided by 2 is 10. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. And there is your new fraction answer. And that's your final result. The last type that I want to show you is one that looks a little bit strange. So this is our third and final example for today. And we're gaining common denominators, but the thing that you need to make sure that you have, check out this example. This is 4 minus 13/7. So this one looks strange in and of itself, and that's because our 4 is a whole number. It's not even in fraction form yet. So in order to even start this process, the first thing I have to do when I have a whole number is I have to turn it into a fraction by putting it over 1. That's our first step. Now, what can we do to get common denominators for this one? Well, I can change the 1 to a 7 by multiplying by 7. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to multiply 7 on the bottom and 7 on the top, and that's how I'm going to get 7 as my common denominator. Second step, rewrite your fraction by multiplying. 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times 1 is 7. Minus sign, 13/7. We're going to keep our common denominator, and we're going to, now this is a subtraction, and when we see subtract, we're going to keep, change. So we're going to keep, change this to a plus, and change this to a negative. So 28 plus negative 13. Remember, 28's bigger, so the positives are going to win, but we have to take 13 away from that 28. Remember, 13 aren't going down without a fight, and that's going to leave us with 15 positives left. Can I divide 7 and 15 by a common number? Nope. So this is my final answer. If you have questions about making a common denominator, these are our 3 strategies to do that. Come back and rewatch the video or contact me with questions.